So here we have an interesting correlation that the Bible date is correct. Roughly 400 years ago, a worldwide flood. When they drill down into the ground, they hit oil. The oil's under pressure up to, I don't know, I've not heard of any exceeding this, but up to 20,000 pounds per square inch of pressure. That oil wants out of there. How many have ever seen the movies where they drill down and hit a gusher? The oil comes squirting up out of the ground, okay? Not all oil wells are that way, believe me, but some are. Incredible pressure. When we lived in Texas, we had a lot of guys that worked in our church that worked in the oil field. And being a science teacher, I was always curious about the oil, you know, and how do they do this? And I would go out and visit the oil wells and, you know, watch them drill this stuff. They drill down about 1,000 feet, a big 12-inch hole. That's quite a post hole digger, by the way, they've got for that. They dig down 1,000 feet. Then they put a special donut down there called a blowout preventer. And they run wires up to the top to a switch. Then they go and they drill through the middle of their blowout preventer. They drill a 4 or 6 inch hole the rest of the way down. If they hit a high pressure pocket, the switch automatically trips to close it off. Because in the early days, they would drill down for gas or oil. They hit one of these high pressure pockets, and it comes shooting up out of the ground so hard, it eats the side of the hole away, and the hole gets bigger and bigger and bigger from all this oil squirting up. Pretty soon, everything falls in the hole. People, buildings, tractors, everything. There was one in East Texas, I believe, where it ate up an entire acre, collapsed. Killed a bunch of people. Everything just swallowed up into the ground. It wasted a lot of oil, too. Blows all over the place. So now they prevent that with what's called a blowout preventer. Who cares, right? The fact is, oil wells often have incredible pressure down there. Now, the guys who deal with this have to have special tubing, special valves, special equipment. They're ready to handle incredible pressure. The scientists who studied the rocks on top of the oil say this rock can't handle the pressure for more than about 10,000 years. The pressure should have leaked off. What would eventually happen is the rock's going to crack. When I was in Texas, in the middle of oil patch in Longview, Texas, we had guys, I'd go soul winning, and they would say, oh, I do frack jobs for a living. So you do what? He said, yeah. We drill down, we pump the oil out of the ground. Now you got to figure way down there, it's like a big sponge, only hard rock sponge, a sandstone sponge. You pump out the oil, it soaks into the hole, you pump out some more, and you got to wait till more oil soaks in. The oil's not in any hurry to get to the hole, just gravity fed, okay, or under pressure. But after a few years, you've pumped out an area about as far as you can get. Now your oil well quits pumping. Nothing down there to pump anymore. So they pull the pump out, pull the well out, pull the pipe out. They pour in a bunch of liquid nitrogen, and then quick pour a bunch of concrete in the hole to fill the hole in, maybe 100 feet of solid concrete. The concrete hardens, the nitrogen is hot, turns to gas, expands, and it creates so much pressure, it cracks the rock underground. And cracks go shooting out for hundreds of yards in all directions. It's an underground explosion is what it is. And they're fracturing the ground out, you know, from here to PCA. Now the oil over there has got a crack to flow through, so it flows into your hole. You can start pumping it again. Of course, now you got the problem. You've got your concrete plug. You got to drill that out. So it's a real expensive process, but that you can study all that if you like get into oil production. But the fact is, we do have pressure. It doesn't last long. So two obvious questions should come up. Why is there oil in the ground? Where did it come from? And why does it still have pressure? Nearly all scientists agree that oil comes from organisms, living organisms, that are squeezed and heated. Under pressure and heat, you can convert a ton of garbage to oil in a few minutes. There's a good article in Creation magazine, Creation Ex Nihilo. If you get the 1990 edition, I believe is where it is. Also, Impact article number 155 are some good ones to read if you want to study. And Eric, you should do this. Definitely read up on oil formation. Scientists can take a ton of garbage and squeeze it into oil in the laboratory in about 20 minutes. They did a test where they took some organic material. Now, the word organic means something that used to be alive. Plants, animals, okay, is organic. Oil is, almost everybody agrees, comes from organic material, plant or animal or human. Under pressure and heat will change to oil. Hitler, it is reported, some of the Jews that were killed, he took the bodies and had them baked to produce oil for his tanks. I don't know, I can't verify the story, but I've had several folks tell me, yes, it's true, that they didn't do that with all of it, but they did it with some to see if it would work. They'd found it was too expensive to do. Okay, the pressure and heat produces oil. So I don't know what the numbers are, but let's say you can make a barrel of oil for $1,000. You take a ton of garbage, squeeze it, heat it, turns to oil. One person said to me the other day, why don't they make oil that way, you know, cut the price of gas? I said, well, you can drill and pump the oil out of the ground for about 20 bucks a barrel. If they start producing it for 1,000 bucks a barrel, your gas is going to cost, you know, $1,000 a gallon. You better leave it alone, okay? It's still cheaper to drill it. The fact is it could be done. It just isn't practical to do that. So oil can form quickly. So the obvious question would be, how did the oil get way down there in the ground? 3, 4, 5, 6,000 feet down, you know, 2 miles down. All over East Texas, they drill down 3,800 feet, I believe is the number, and they get into the seam where all the oil is. They can pretty well count on it. You know, we drill down 3,800 feet, you're probably going to hit oil. In Kilgore, Texas, remember the oil museum? They had 28 oil wells on 1 acre, the size of our property. They called it the world's richest acre. They pumped it for years and finally pumped it dry. Today it's just a museum. Okay, there's no more oil, not enough oil on there to make it worth going after. But Sinclair Oil Company has the dinosaur as their logo because they say the dinosaurs turned to oil. And they're probably right. And they, you know, these guys drill for oil all the time. Sinclair is still a very valid company, mostly out west. You don't see them much here, but in Arkansas there are Sinclair gas stations, and all over out west, Sinclair Oil Company. The article, How Fast Can Oil Form? Creation Next to High-Low, Volume 12, number 2, page 30, talks about that. I've got this sign in my office from Sinclair saying that dinosaurs have been mellowed for 80 million years. Now, slow down a minute. Yes, the dinosaurs probably turned to oil, but it wasn't 80 million years ago. I think that all happened at the time of the flood. Very simple. You got a world full of people, full of animals, full of plants. Now you get a flood that destroys everything. The flood lasts for a year. At the same time as the flood's going on, you got volcanoes blasting ash and lava up, and you got all kinds of bad things happening to the earth. You're going to get all these carcasses buried under thousands of feet of mud, sediment, debris, rocks, lava, ash. The pressure, how much does a cubic foot of water weigh?
8 pounds.
A gallon is 8 pounds. 62 pounds, 64, 62 pounds, okay, depending on what kind of water it is, salt water, etc. If you lay it on the ground and I put a box 1 cubic foot on top of your stomach and filled it full of water, 62 pounds. Let's stack up 10 of those boxes. 10 feet of water puts 620 pounds of pressure per square foot. Let's stack up 100 of them. 6,200 pounds of pressure per square foot, right?
Now, wouldn't it be different if you were surrounded by water?
If you're down in the water, yes, it's different. However, your eardrum is a little piece of skin stretched across an air pocket inside. That's why when you go down in deep water, the air pressure pushes on your eardrum and stretches it, pushing it in. And you have to go slowly so your air inside your head, in your station tube, can equalize the pressure. That's why when you go up and down the mountains, you have to hold your nose and blow, you know, to pop your ears, to equalize the pressure. Scuba diving, you have that, especially if you have sinus trouble, you have trouble scuba diving because, you know, your ears will never equalize. Who cares, right? Rock weighs more than water, right? Let's say a cubic foot of rock weighs 100 pounds. It's probably a lot more than that, but let's just pick a number. 100 pounds per cubic foot. Let's stack it up 3,000 feet deep. How much pressure is it putting on 1 square foot 3,000 feet down? Is that 300,000 pounds per square foot? That's a lot of pressure. That's for 3,000 feet. Oil is anywhere from 3,000 to 10,000 feet down. So the pressure of the rock above is enormous, plenty, and since it's just pressure, pressure produces heat. So you got exactly what you need, pressure and heat, to convert whatever was buried to oil. If they can do it in the laboratory in 20 minutes, it certainly can change in 4,400 years from buried carcasses into oil. So that's where the oil came from. I believe the oil came from the people and animals that drowned in the flood. So I tell them, when you go to the gas station, you can say, "Bye, Grandpa, you should have listened to Noah. He told you it was going to rain." And that's probably what happened to the people that did not listen to the Lord.